Jordana Shir Mohammed, and I will be representing a project, an abstract done on the integration of climate science and art. Technically, what I'm trying to get across with my project is the fact that at this point, trust in government within society is at an all-time low. And we need to consider the fact that because politicians and scientists have been dancing for so long, both politicians and scientists have started to lose the credibility of today's society. So therefore, how do we properly integrate the idea of climate science and disseminate this information to the general masses? The major part of my project here is you'll notice that when you look at the newspaper coverage of climate change and global warming, you do see that there was a peak in 2009, and then it started to taper off, primarily because climate change is no longer considered sexy. So how do we redirect this information back to the people that need to understand this? The general population, when we go and we look at the way that the brain is functioning, there's much more types of intelligences and methods of learning than the obvious, which is what most scientists are credible and are known for. So if we look at the difference between how a scientist learns and the general public, how can we somehow tap into this to make sure that the general public is the ones that are getting the correct information and therefore disseminating it to their peers and their colleagues about climate science and art? The traditional learning approach for most people back in the day would have been the sensories, the aptitude, and the personality. And when you look at today's neo-millennial learning approach, it's obvious that we have to build in a mentality of a media-based environment. So now, when you think about Twitter, and I pulled these statistics from January 27th, look at your top 100, and I did select just randoms. You will notice that anything scientific oriented, and I picked Greenpeace as just the entity of interest, 80,000 followers, and you look at somebody like Katy Perry with 50 million followers, can we somehow utilize social media as well as today's socialites and popular people figures to propagate this information? Now, until there is a personal relationship to the effects of climate change, people really aren't going to do much about it. So this is a water use lab that I happen to conduct in my classroom, in which I have students estimate their water use and then as well as their actual use. And 90% of the time you will notice that students will underestimate and will then essentially overuse. And if you take a closer look at these values, you'll also notice that the students who have to pay for water are the ones that tend to overuse the least amount, and the ones with the waters already included into their rent bills, you will find that they are the ones that tend to overuse the most. So if we can't use scientists and we can't use politicians to propagate this message of climate change, where's the best way to go? And my personal belief is by tapping the art industry and into the art sciences, we can actually get this information spread via emotional ties. So I have taken 3 separate pieces of art in which you will notice I wouldn't have to say anything to help you understand what the message is trying to say. I'd like to focus on this one in particular, the 365 by Eric Solheim, and you will notice that this is a photo that is taken with 365 slices put together and then are able to show the different seasons. And so by looking at something like this helps the most common person understand what scientists fail to do in terms of disseminating this information to the general public. Using art and manipulations of art is not something new to our society. This is something that has been done some time ago, where people often use art and pictorial visual images as a message of information transfer. So my proposal is that we start to tap the unmarketed resources of artists and other public figures in order to help spread this extremely important message about climate adaptation. Thank you.